This everyone. I hope everybody's doing well, blessed, and enjoying family. As always, muchas gracias to all for everyone's words, prayers, wishes, and the love you guys share with me. De corazón se los agradezco. And before I get into the story, do please like, share, and subscribe. Gracias. We're getting right into the topic of today. Today I want to touch mainly on how sometimes not even a power struggle, right? That two pilis start going at it and it jeopardizes camaradas, or should I say, it will take camarada's career per se like that and put him on that no good list, even though there's nothing wrong there. But favoritism and power hungry, jealousy. Jealousy plays a big part amongst Phillies, right? They're jealous of the man next to them that has a little bit more pull than him. But anyways, allow me to get right into it, right? On this one, I want to talk about huero, sherm, and Sal from Logan Heights, right? The two Phillies from San Diego. And this happened around 2006, 2005, 2006. I was already at Pelican Bay. As a matter of fact, I just got in there, right? Maybe 4 or 5 months. I got in there from Corcoran, and as you guys know, I got there from Corcoran, and even though I took all the proper steps, excuse me, to do what I did, it still, of course, it was in my mind, and honestly, I was just waiting for it, that since I touched one of them, even though again I had everything correctly, that wasn't gonna matter, Like I was done. To be sincere, I had that in mind, that as soon as a Philly or someone else had a chance, they were gonna whack me. But it was gonna happen regardless, and validated lifer. That was gonna happen over and over in the shoe, because I wasn't gonna go nowhere. There was no point. But anyways, getting back to where the Sherm and Sal, right? In 2005, when I got there, I had mentioned it before in my stories. The first people I got, or the first feelings I got in, like doing things with, was the San Diego faction, right? And when you speak about the San Diego faction at this time, of course, you got to mention where the Sherm, because it's not to glorify the individual, but it's just facts, right? Mostly everybody that was a Philly from San Diego glorified this individual and felt like they were under him, right? Of course they weren't. Nor am I saying that, it just felt like that, right? If you analyze it, everything that was happening circle around him. For example, there was all these plots. It was mainly to, well, I don't know if this came up with some people that had to bounce out there, how to help them escape. Even though a gang of people got busted behind there, it was still the intent was there and there over and over, And just the Phillies that were up there from Logan Heights that they would all drop out was because of Huero, right? But at this time, they had a little thing going with El Valle Imperial, to be more exact, with the homies in El Centro. They had a big crew out there. And as I recall, right, because at one time, Huero asked if I could find a little bit of soda, right? He was able to touch base with Tijuas, with everything else. Just the soda, they were having some difficulty. It wasn't up to par, So I said, of course. And of course, I know how to snake when it comes to that world, right? So I knew the weight of this feeling. So of course, I wanted to throw him on my family because, again, his money was good and his movement was great, right? At the time, again, he was in every yard in California without mentioning counties and streets, right? And as I said, the rest of the Phillies from SD felt like they moved around him. And anyways, it happened, Of course, I had a visit and I was able to discuss basically the prices that Arellanos had for them to meet him and quality wise. Well, you guys know all the back stuff you have to do to kind of hook a client, right? When you're in that business. So it was done, and that's one thing about I could say about my family, not because it's them, right? Is they don't touch it. The way it comes out the kitchen is the way they turn it into the next man, right? Because they understand that greed, dirtiness, when it comes to that, you lose people. You get people to speak ill, right, of what's coming from you. So they hit it off, right? And to a sense, I took on a lot of responsibility when I did this, right? Even though, as I mentioned, I always say, hey, I'll, plug you in. You guys get it going. I don't want nothing from either side. You guys handle it, I'm out because of the ricochet. But, I was in that state of mind, excuse me, at the time. And I allowed, I'm not going to say greediness, but I allowed the opportunity to get the best of me. So I wanted to be tapped in a sense. So where to help me stay, at that time Sal was on the streets. So he was more hands-on when it came to the homies in El Centro. And I was, you could say, the secretaria, even though again Huero did not need me or nothing. It was a way to stay in contact that, when it came to my family stand was being met. In other words, I was just being a pawn, right? He would get his information, his money through me, and I would be able to keep my family in line in case anything shady. It's just what it was, but I was okay with it at this time, right? Again, because I seen the type of money that was there, type of power. So, at this time they established a huge mesa in El Centro. I couldn't even start to mention, but the ones I was personally tapped in with were four Pilis. They were the ones, excuse me, not Pilis, homies. They were in charge of the whole cha-cha on the streets, right? When it came to camaradas and everything, which for Huero was Pato and Joker, you know. They were camaradas that done their stuff. They've been up in the bay with him and all that, but they were on the streets now. And the ones that Sal had assigned was a guy, Max, an older vato, and a guy called Chile, an older vato too, you know. And I don't need to get into details with everyone, but they were moving weight. I'll tell you like this. The first time, it was 30. Literally 30 of them ladrillos, right? The second went up to 80, and you guys can imagine, right? There was a lot of movement there. Nevertheless, this happens a lot, which is appealing, has so much going on like Huero, that something that will benefit him comes up and he'll say F everything, and I'm pushing for this, right? So as you guys know, this didn't go on for a cough, right? A flu. It went on for years, right? And 2007, they got busted around 2005, 2006. And 2007 is when Huero Sherm got pulled out to court, right, from the Bay. And as you guys know, he pleaded guilty to everything, and also that boxer dude had a lot of influence, right? Because in that case alone, which later on I want to touch more in detail, right, kind of to extend a little bit on that type of damage. But in that case alone with Sherm, that cat boxer put at least two, 3 dozen of homies and members away a lot, either with 20 something or life, period. You know, just in that case alone, including Wetterstrom. So, at the time there was no, how do I say, there was no inlight on us getting out the bay, especially if you're a lifer. And if you had that state of mind where, you know, whatever happens, even if it keep me slammed down, if I get hit or get pushed to that side, I'm just gonna buck up and do my time in the shoe. Or if they kick me out, boogie and come back, right? That type of mentality. And but would have seen the opportunity to go to the feds and start programming and get out the shoe, so he concentrated on that, right? Overall, and he basically, well, I don't need to say it. I know a lot. No, he confessed to everything. You know, even on the dog eating the cat's food, not snitching. Don't confess it. He confessed, so he would get that federal charge and he go off to the feds, as he did. You guys, but anyways, as he went to the feds, these guys are going through their own little. They get busted, right? And the first four that get busted, like I mentioned, of course, as always, is the guys in charge, because that's who everybody underneath them is telling on them, right? It's like that everywhere, and they get busted, and on this four, a whole bunch of people start getting busted. Overall, don't quote me, but it was over 30. You know, it could have been up to 40, but it was a lot. Again, half was moving for Huero, the other half was moving for Sal. And Huero went to the feds. People started getting sentencing, people start coming out of court, for example, transcripts, a lot of intel starts coming out that starts surfacing, excuse me. For example, I remember Pato and Joker shot a Willa up to the bay to Robert Diaz, right? Stating that he knew Max and Chile for Sal were snitching. And, that's where favoritism comes in. Sal is related to Robert. And, of course, he wasn't going to allow it. So, what they start doing, they start politicking against Pato and Joker. And start shutting down everything. At one point, they actually had, you could say, a secretaria that actually went up to the bay to Silent and showed him some things. What it was, Silent just mentioned them. He didn't need, or he didn't have the obligation to show anybody else, right? He just put him under the table, and he basically stated it was lies, had that hyena move on the streets and starts covering up things. You see, but if you start analyzing just in sentencing alone, right? Because when sentencing came pulled out, I remember a lot of people came into full, right, with how they were sentenced. And put it like this, Max and Chile, they were doing half of everything in the feds knew. making half the feria. For Sal, Pato and Joker for Huero. When sentencing came around, Max got sentenced to 3 years. Chile, I believe 4 or 5. And when it came to Pato and Joker for Huero, they got one got sentenced for 40 something years, Pato I believe, and the other one got 20 something. So does that make sense? That alone should be something to open up on por qué, right? On the whys. Cause it's shady, you know. Of course, I was nobody, but if I would have been somewhere where I had the opportunity to look deeper into this, of course I will. So again, everything got shut down. The Phillies from Logan Hines, once Wet or Sherm took off from the bay, they were it. Literally, they were it for the San Diego faction, you know? So they made the decisions. They put under the rug whatever they wanted, and they put out whatever they wanted. Which again was exactly what happened. You see, shortly after this, all these vatos, the ones they started hitting, I don't know, 30 something, 40, if I remember, half was South, half was Huero. They were working in cahoots, right? But since there was an issue pressed on South soldiers and accusations on South covering up, these two individuals, more to be more on target, South put a green light on everybody that was functioning out of Huero Sherm. And of course, you know, Huero did not take it sitting down, but it's just when everything started hitting the fans with him. For example, you know, ADX, and then all the rest, right? But I know that favoritism as he went to the feds started disappearing. Where when he was in the Bay, he was set for the San Diego faction. You know, they could paint whatever they want to paint. But think about it like this. Between him and Bat, they were it. But when Bat was on the streets, what was his objective? What he wanted done the most? And that was have where to escape, right? He was concentrating on that. He was sending missions. Oh, I'm getting too much into it, right? But anyways, Weddle had a lot of money come to him. But it's like it happens, you see. As things move, of course, Phillies will lose that strength. But they're not gonna go straight for him, right? They're gonna start targeting any soldados. So you could be a soldado on the yard, doing everything correct for a Philly, without knowing another Philly's jealous, envy, or in a sense politic. But like in this case, he's just trying to cover up his sin by taking out everything that this other individual has when it comes to power, to take what's his, at least in the state, right? Because once Weddle went to the feds, it is what it is, you know. He belonged to the feds, and all them yards he was in, and streets, of course, they got questioned on somebody else that could actually run him better, be more responsible, be more hands-on, the way he was, and he should release he should turn that in, right, out of respect. Which I don't know if you guys noticed, but ever since 2010, 2011 is when you start hearing about the Ayalas and their movement and their wiggling, as you know, this happened with Edo, and then you start hearing about the Diaz Phillies, and you start hearing about Sal and them indictments and all that in San Diego. But it's how it's happened, you see. When it comes to Widow Sherm, Me personally, yes, he was loud with what he spoke on, right? Through where he spoke it. But it's because the means over Trump that he didn't mind that extra attention from government. But again, I bet he never thought it was gonna land him in Sam status in the feds, right? But it was that quick. You see, at one point, to those or to that one that speak about Sal, right? He was real close and helping. Cause let's be sincere, you know, I personally was there when the first chingadazo, when it came for them 50 ladrillos, came from Huero. You know, before Sal had all these people move in and Huero gave them half of everything, most of the people was Huero moving it, making the feria. But see, when that slowed down for Huero's decision to get out the shoe, you know, when he was in the wrong, he shouldn't have minimized his soldados for one, what was coming in the shoe. But it comes with a narrow mind, right? And I don't say it to minimize these individuals in any way, right? I say that the state and everything thinks is going correct, so the only thought on them is they don't want the feds to step in on what they have going on the state, and it's theirs. But they never think about what's going to happen when I go out there, because everyone's going to end up out there. There's no doubt about it. Because that solid camarada, the solid sureño next to you, it could be one out of the 8 out of 10 that's giving the Judas a kite, informing them on everything that's happening. But, you know, what I want to touch on is now on this is what I always say on my stories, so try to put that angle right. You see, you could give your life away for someone thinking there's going to be appreciation, or let's be clear, right? For the feelings. You know, I say because I was that individual that gave everything at one point for them, that I loved our causa, still do, right? Was willing to sacrifice everything and do everything. But it ricocheted in my face. How whatever you do don't matter. You see, this is a perfect example how you're even on the streets, right? Doing everything from them, making them money. But when something better comes from them, you have no meaning. You don't think Huero was there analyzing this happened in California to where he had his claws in, which was at Centro? And honestly, you don't think if he really wanted to, he could have came out on top? I'm just being sincere. You know, my respects to Sal and his people, whatever, but just the real is real, right? Huero could have came out on top, but to him, it was meaningless. He started doing things in different states, different angles. They start giving them, different, you could say, gangs in the feds. So he honestly, I heard this from, I'm not even gonna put a number, but I heard this from numerous of camaradas. They used to try to reach out from the state CDC to him in the feds, and he would not even reply no more. And one of his secretaries on the streets did reply once to a guy. I guess she had a lot of respect and used to go up there and visit when Huero was there, and told him, hey, Huero's straight directive was concentrate on the feds and let the state deal with the states. I don't want to hear it no more. Basically, whatever he had in the state, they were going to pay him off. He was going to move on. But where does that leave you as a camarada? Where does that leave your loyalty? You see, there is no doubt, as later on it came out with Max in Chile from El Centro, they were snitches. Paperwork came out on them real clear. But when this was stated by Pato and Joker from El Centro, again, Joker and Pato had already done a lot of time. They've been validated, and their word should have been good. But the Billy they were loyal to just had other things in mind that benefit him. You know, and that's what it is. When I say pawn, I mean it in every angle. Which is meant to go in, be sacrificed for whatever meaning that benefits them, with no care at all for what you do for them. You see, Pato, Joker, and all the people that want their huero, at least 15 camaradas from El Centro, 15 to 20, again, I don't remember the exact number, got hit by Sal. And all that they got hit because Sal saw the opportunity to move on his carnal, because a lot of things were going on with him and he seemed lost, right? It was what it was. He was not interested in that no more. He had bigger and better things. That's huero. And so he did what he did. He had two solid soldados with a lot of people under them, so he covered their tracks, being snitches, and hit good camaradas and everybody that was underneath them, so there wouldn't be no more pushback. So that's what loyalty, being solid to these individuals, gangs. Remember, I know firsthand. Go back and listen to why I walked out my story, please. You'll see. After almost 24 years, CDC time, 14 shoot time, XX, whatever, and the sacrifice being a camarada in Mexico for them. That one thing I requested from Apilia that he had respect for me, that I was doing a lot for, ended up taking it from me for no reason, for $3,500, when in reality I was sitting in that ranch. I'm not even going to get into it, but I was sitting on money when it came in work. But that's the angle, you see. You could go, you could listen to that pinto that comes out, that's just trying to play the part. That you could go in, get some peras and manzana, you can earn your stripes, your respect, the appreciation from them, and yeah, maybe some do, but overall, remember that saying, money talks, BS. It's exactly like how they look at camarada. Remember, they're above the program. They're untouchable, and you can't even comment on their stuff. So keep that in mind and really analyze and dissect it from every angle, and you'll get the true meaning of it. But at the end of the day, don't believe that, and I say it again to those that have the opportunity, even to those camaradas that done county time, that even done state time, but are now on the streets. Value yourself. If you've been in CC, you know what time it is. Even in county, there shouldn't be no question, not just what I'm saying, but the numerous of things that are out there on this. And just value yourself. Value those that if you're loyal, you show them love, dedication, sacrifice, they're going to return it to you. I have that real clear. So please, be smart. Just a quick update. I've been terrible. The excuse of this recording, you hear all these machines in the air loud because I told you guys if I should do this, God would be real clear with me. I've been getting so terrible. I mean, man, I wish, I could come on and tell you guys with detail everything I have to go through or what I need to go through, right? To keep pushing for God, the message, and as always, not making a fool of myself. I really hope I make sense with this. Just, I've been in a lot of medication, a lot, and God has shown me that I need to act now. Can't wait on that blood. So I'm making a decision. Tomorrow morning they're coming for sure. Again, they didn't come Friday like they were supposed to, but I know they will tomorrow. And just be wise. Again, I'm nobody, never been nobody. But I don't know if you want to say I had. Yeah, I'll say I had the honor of seeing a lot of this. Why? Because I could. Even if not making sense or dumb, I could put it out in a sense to help now. And I had the pleasure of meeting a lot of good camaradas, loyal, that unfortunately politics, right? And not even politics. There's comfort politics, and then there's enemy politics. That's why I say be wise, stay true to yourself, and loyal to loved one.